morning, everyone. You're all very welcome. It's Monday, Leo Kildare Coffee Morning Series. So I have a glass, but I hope you have your cup at hand. We have a great session planned. But there you go. Thanks, Infinity Online, giving me the schlanche there. So you're all very welcome. We've got a great morning plan for you. My name is Nancy Ward with the Entrepreneurs Academy. I'm here representing the local enterprise office Kildare. We've got Aoife Horan and John McCaughey on this morning with us. And as our guest this morning, we have Helen Vaughan, who is with Maynooth Counselling and Psychotherapy. So I think I've said that right, Helen, hopefully, yeah. Anyhow. So I want to welcome you all. I hope you all had a great weekend. We were talking before we came on here that, of course, the sun gave us a bit of a blessing over the weekend. So hope you got out within your 5K and soaked up a bit of vitamin D and a bit of sunshine. Makes a big difference. So listen, we'll let everybody get settled in. And I'm delighted to be talking to Helen here, who has her own practice and is an active worksite wellness advocate and speaks to client groups and individuals and has been doing so for some time out of Maynooth. And Helen is bringing her expertise here with us this morning. So you're very welcome, Helen.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Fabulous, fabulous. Well, so let's go ahead and just dive in and get started. I guess, what I'd ask you first in the wellness in the workspace, theme, what is it that you're seeing most at the moment?
I would say anxiety is probably number one, and it's not really surprising given what's going on at the moment. But most clients that are referring to our practice are identifying with anxiety. There's a bit of depression there as well. Some people have a combination of both, or more one or more the other. For some people, it might be anxiety that they've had an issue with before and it's resurfaced again. For some people, it might be coming up for the first time, or that they've noticed it for the first time, or that it's got to a point where they feel they aren't in control of it for the first time. So they're feeling that it's, anxiety is a funny one because you can notice the physical signs, but not recognize what it is, in terms of fast heart rate, sweaty hands, tense muscles, stomach issues, headaches. There's a lot of signs in your body that you're anxious that you might not identify with anxiety, because you might think, oh, I have a cold, or I have the flu, or I have COVID, or you might think it's something else when in fact, it could be anxiety related. So I would say anxiety is the big one. In terms of statistics, there was the Central Statistics Office did a survey, which they put out in February, and they said more than half of Irish people, so that's 57%, said their mental health had been negatively impacted by the pandemic, which I think is actually a little on the low side, because that's obviously over half, but I would have thought maybe more people might have identified that. It's more for younger people. So if you're aged 18 to 34, it was nearly 3/4 of people said, there was a negative impact, and it was 1/3 for those over 70, which I thought was interesting, because this has been really hard for people over 70, but only 1/3 there said that they reported a negative impact. But half for the general population, and then 3/4 for the younger ones. So I would say anxiety for me, number one. Other issues might be loneliness, people struggling with the uncertainty of the situation, which as a business person and as an individual and as a parent, there's lots of layers to that, because, this is the biggest unknown for possibly a generation, possibly more than that. And it's a collective unknown. So it's quite an unusual one in that we're all going through it, but it still impacts each of us probably in a slightly different way. So that's a big issue. Issues around control and lack of control are huge. And I have some tips around that, which I can give later. Lack of control about your own situation, about your own life choices, about your business choices. So that's huge. And for some people, control is something that they like to have, and not having it is a real challenge. And it's a matter of trying to find what you can control within your situation and trying to focus on that. Other issues is pandemic fatigue is a big one now, because I think it's a year of this, People are really tired. People are reporting feeling kind of foggy, unmotivated, indifferent almost, which might be new to some people, that they're almost like they don't care anymore, which is a red flag in another way. Relationship issues is another one. Parenting issues, obviously a huge one. I think a lot of children are now back at school, but the secondary children aren't. So if you have secondary children, you're probably still in that ongoing holding pattern of waiting for their lives to get back to a bit of normality, and, you know, your life in your household being under huge pressure. You know, so there's all of those things and probably a bit more as well.
So with that, Helen, like, where do we start? You know, as a parent, as a business owner, as a manager, you know, what are sort of, you know, I don't want to make it simple and sound like the top 3 tips or something, but you've mentioned the control piece, resilience. Where do we start?
Well, funny, because I was a journalist before I was a therapist, so I'm great for trying to put things into 3 tips and make things sort of short and digestible. And I think with mental health, it's an easier way to think about it, because it can be overwhelming. And when people aren't feeling good, they're not feeling like they can read an entire book about being resilient or being a good manager or being a good parent. They might feel a bit intimidated about all the information that's out there. So what I try and do is I try to break them down into different areas or different topics. Like, you know, I might start with anxiety just because that's what I'm seeing the most of. And I wonder if people might identify with that particularly. You know, but a bit about anxiety, and then I can tell you a little bit about how to understand what it is, physically, how it manifests, and then a little bit about what to do about it, if that sort of makes sense.
That'd be great, Helen. And I guess I also just want to say, you know, as we all put on our hats, you know, some businesses have done really well, you know, in COVID, and other businesses, of course, have had to shut the door. So, and then there's loads of people somewhere in the middle that have been able to pivot or change. But not only are we here as business owners, but again, we're people. You know, we are parents, we're children of elderly people that we're trying to take care of. We're trying to take care of our teams. We're trying to take care of suppliers and clients. So we're not only, you know, trying to mind ourselves, but so many others. So as you share with us how we can do better around the space of anxiety, maybe you refer to those different roles that we play.
Yeah, because I think business is one area, and obviously it's very important and it's a huge area of stress. But as you say, there's so much more to this, and it impacts our lives, all the different parts of our lives, which I think maybe is what's so big and challenging about it, is that there's no part of your life really that's unaffected. You know, if you even think as simple as going to sleep at night, you're like, well, at least you're in your house and you're safe and it's okay. But a lot of people aren't sleeping because they're anxious or because they're stressed. You know, so I don't know if there's any part of your life that really isn't impacted, and it's good to think about all those different facets, because it can be easy to focus, you know, if your business is closed, to focus only on that and forget about your family life or your relationships or your own mental health, and trying to look after yourself even within a situation where you probably feel like you don't have control and you feel stuck and you feel frustrated and angry, and all those things are fair enough. And maybe what I'd start with from a mental health point of view is to try to notice how you're feeling and accept how you're feeling, which sounds really simple but isn't. You know, that if you're angry, that it's okay to be angry, and let's figure out what you can do with that, rather than just, I don't know, shouting at the people in your home or shouting at yourself or whatever that is. But whatever feelings you're going through, to notice what they are, write them down if you find it helpful, but notice them and try not to judge them. Try not to tell yourself that I should be better at this by now, or I should not be angry by now, or anger is a funny one because it's painted as an ugly emotion, when in fact it's part of life. You know, it's not that we should never feel angry. It's a matter of what you do with that anger, and do you do something that's harmful or helpful. But so I would start by saying, notice your feelings, notice where you're at. You know, anxiety wise, what anxiety is, it's a fear of the unknown, which may be about the past, the present, or the future. And at the moment, we're in the biggest collective unknown. I don't know if it's that the world has seen, but maybe in 100 years, maybe the war was the last time that there was such a big unknown that affected so many people that people didn't have control over. You know, so I would say notice your feelings, and don't be surprised if you're feeling frustrated with the uncertainty and the unknown properties of it, because that's the bottom line of this whole thing, is that we don't really know how it's going to play out. I don't know if Ireland is worse off than other countries, because I feel we've no roadmap now and we really have no idea how we're going to get out of it, or if we're going to get out of it, or what the plan is. But anxiety, what it comes from is it's kind of our body's internal alarm. So it's sort of a protection mechanism to keep us alive and keep us safe. You know, so it is on our side, although sometimes it doesn't feel like that, because when you're anxious, often you feel like it's out of control and it's outside of you. You know, but the theory around anxiety is that it's supposed to fire stress hormones when, for example, if you think back in the day, there was a tiger close or some kind of predator that was coming near us. You know, and our body responds by firing stress hormones. It's called the stress response. And we usually, you know, go to fight, flight, or freeze. So, you know, your body prepares by firing all these stress hormones so that you can flee. So you might notice that your heart is beating faster, raise heart rate, give your extremities more blood so that you can outrun the tiger. You might have fast breathing, hyperventilating because your body's firing up to flee. You might have sweaty hands because you're hot. You might have tension in your muscles because your body's kind of tense and ready to fight if you need to, or run away if you need to. You might have stomach tightness or pain as your body kind of, your blood goes to your arms and your legs to get out of here rather than your stomach to digest. So it shifts in terms of what's important. You might notice that you get shaky hands and legs because there's lots of hormones going in your arms and legs to try to, you know, to be ready to run. Like I remember when I lived in New Zealand, for some reason I used to cycle a lot, and I used to often have near misses with cars. And I always remember if I had a near miss with a car on the bike, my legs would shake for a while afterwards. And I never knew what that was, but it was only when I started working in this area that I realized that that was my body firing up because it thought it was in danger. And yes, it was. But it was firing up my legs to run away and be able for me to escape, which I thought was interesting. You know, other symptoms you might notice are needing the bathroom a lot, dry mouth, feeling dizzy, you know, because again, your blood doesn't go to your brain so much because it's going to your arms and legs to get you out of danger, you know, so you might feel lightheaded. In terms of how it affects you day to day, you might notice that your ability to sleep is changed or challenged. Your appetite might be different, higher or lower. I would say comfort eating is something I'm seeing a lot of personally and for other people during the pandemic, because it's something you can control and you can do it at home, and it might make you feel better in the moment. You know, drinking is probably another thing, that you might drink more than you used to or more often than you used to. Self-esteem, it can impact concentration, energy. You might find you're more irritable, you're ruminating. Particularly, I think as a business owner, you can get stuck in a cycle of what am I going to do about this or what am I going to do about that? And you're kind of stuck in this same cycle of going round and round and, you know, maybe not getting out of the cycle that you're, you know, ruminating about the same thing over and over. Intrusive thoughts is another thing, and questioning yourself and questioning others.
And the challenge I think that, you know, we're all experiencing is anxiety I believe it's called eustress. It can be used to, you know, power change and have impact. The problem is it's ongoing anxiety that's just seemingly, you know, a year on, never ending, because we know COVID is out there and, you know, we don't want it. We don't want it for our children or our family or our parents or the people we care about. And so we're sort of hiding. We're playing probably more freeze than anything, aren't we? But it's just the ongoing anxiety. So what can be done about that ongoing anxiety?
Yeah, and that's when it becomes unhelpful, because anxiety can be good so that you're on time, you get your projects done on time, deadlines keep you focused on things. You know, and if you're in danger and you run away and you hide and you survive, you know, anxiety has done its job. But if, as you say, it's ongoing, so your body might be firing the stress hormones often, but you're not running away from the danger, you're not using that energy it's creating to escape or to flee or to freeze, it means your body's constantly firing these stress hormones and it's exhausting, you know, because you're not getting away from the danger. So there's no sense, it's kind of misfiring because it's trying to get you out of danger, but there actually isn't a physical danger present. So the first thing I would say on a physical level, and you might have heard this around, and some people I think are so bored with meditation, all these things we should be doing, blah, blah, blah. But breathing is something that physically counteracts what the stress hormones are doing. So anxiety fires up your stress. Breathing taps into your parts of your body that literally undo that on a physical level. You know, so I'm not telling you to go off and meditate for an hour a day, but if you can even breathe, slow down your breathing, hold your stomach so that you can tell if your stomach's moving in and out when you breathe, so you're breathing deeply rather than just in your chest. and literally count to 4 as you breathe in. So slow down your breathe in, hold for a second, and count to 4 as you breathe it out. So what fires your stress hormones is a part of your brain called the amygdala, and breathing like this. So in for 4, out for 4, literally that simple. This calms the amygdala, calms the brain, calms the stress hormones back down. It gets your body, it taps into what's called its parasympathetic nervous system that just calms your system back down again. So if you can even start to do this breathing technique, like let's say for 1 minute in the morning from tomorrow, or even twice a week, or as often as you can. If you can do it once a day, great. Breathe in for 4, out for 4. Do it a few times and you'll find that your thinking is slowing down and your body is slowing down. And that's literally all we need to do, is just slow down that stress response. Bring yourself back into your body rather than into your brain where you're off thinking about, I don't know, cash flow or staff or, you know, whatever it is that you might be stressing about. Proper breathing literally does the opposite of what anxiety does. And if you can do that in a calm moment and then start to try to use it if you're feeling anxious, that's what I would say is the first and easiest step to start to undo some of the stress that you might be feeling.
And then I know that you're as well an advocate of mental fitness. Is that in that same space, or is that something different?
I kind of think it is in the same space because, you know, if you can get your physical body to relax somewhat, I guess mental fitness to me is about, okay, well, what can you do in your mind that now builds on that? And that's things like working on your attitude. Do you have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? You know, at the moment, I think a lot of people are pressuring themselves to feel positive. And to me, that's too far. Rather than being negative, to go from negative to positive, too much of a stretch. But can you think usefully? Can you think better? You know, and there's 2 words I can use to promote flexible thinking: prefer and tolerate. And the way to use that is, I would prefer if my restaurant was open as usual and I could welcome my customers in as I always do, but I will tolerate doing takeaway for now. So what you would prefer to happen, acknowledging that, but what you will tolerate for the meantime. The hardship of that is that we all thought this was temporary, and a year later, it doesn't seem that temporary, or it's becoming the norm. But to try to think of your mindset and make it somewhat adaptable, that this is a comma, this isn't a full stop. We won't be like this, hopefully, in 2 years from now. You know, and can you think of whether your mindset has been fixed, or you still thinking this is how it is and this is how it's always going to be and there's nothing I can do and, you know, I'm trapped or I'm stuck or whatever. Okay, I'd prefer if it was this way, but I'll tolerate that it's this way for now. You know, even if it's a matter of, I prefer to meet my parents or my grandchildren now, but I will tolerate seeing them on video again, you know, or I'll tolerate going for a walk if they live near me, rather than what you would prefer, which is to hug them and, you know, have a lovely time together. So it's trying to think if your attitude can be improved somewhat. Don't use the new normal when you think about our lives now, because it isn't normal. It's not helpful, and you're pressuring yourself to make it feel normal when it isn't. You know, but can you improve your attitude within whatever you're in, within what you can control? Micro breaks are another good one that can be useful, particularly around work. Can you take small time periods out of your day and do something else? Even schedule them into your calendar so that you go outside into the garden for a while, or you go for another walk, as people say. But take a break from the pandemic. Can you kick a ball with one of your children? Can you do a video call with someone you haven't talked to in a while? Listen to music, your TV show. You know, it's finding what it is that works for you. Go for a run. I don't know, do craft, whatever it is that you like, rather than thinking, oh, I should run and I should run 15 kilometers. Think of something you like doing and make it something that's helpful for you, rather than something that feels like another job or another chore that you have to do on top of everything.
And with that, Helen, you know, like I said, we're taking care of a lot of people. We want to keep today very positive, but at the same time, if you have a concern or you see something in someone that you know and love that doesn't seem right, perhaps, you know, the pandemic is having wear and tear on someone. What are best, you know, steps or next steps to support them? How can we best support people that we see struggling? And again, if that's a child, a parent, a client, a supplier, what can we do to reach out to them?
Yeah, I would say the first thing you can do, and it's the simplest thing in a way, but is obviously to talk to them, but also to listen to them. You know, if you have a friend that you feel, or a family member that you feel is struggling, can you empathize with how they're feeling? And I think a lot of us, when we hear someone's not feeling great, we rush in to kind of fix and to solve and to be like, oh, don't worry, it's fine, particularly with children. Don't worry, it's fine. Don't be scared of this, or don't be worried about that. Try not to do that, even though it comes from a place of kindness. But can you listen to them and validate how they're feeling? Like if it's a child who's anxious about going back to school, can you hear what they're saying, empathize with what they're saying, and hear them, so that you're not saying, oh, school will be fine. Don't worry about the pandemic. Don't worry about the virus. Listen to their fears and validate them, and, accept their feelings. If they're talking to you, that's a really good sign, for anyone, child or adult, if they trust you enough to tell you how they're feeling. And if you find they don't really want to talk, maybe leave them and come back to them a day or two later. And, maybe they'll open up slowly over time. But if you can talk, open communication, understand where they're at, don't try to fix straight away, but, do what we call in the business as active listening, where you agree and you empathize and I hear that that's scary for you, rather than school's not scary. Don't worry about it. Get back in there. That you try to be less judgmental and more just of an open sounding board for them with wherever they're at, and they will feel listened to and they'll feel that connection, which is the one thing I think a lot of us are missing so much in this pandemic, that we've lost our ability to connect with each other, or we've lost our ability to connect with most of the people that we're not allowed to see, or, the sports games or training or whatever it was we used to go to, or cultural things, or all the things that made us feel better in our day-to-day lives, or gave us a break, or allowed us to connect. Because there's what are called kind of 4 pillars of wellness, and they're sleep, nutrition, movement, and connection. And I think connection, human beings, is, I don't know if it's the one thing that differentiates us from a lot of the other mammals or animals, but it's hugely important to us. We're social creatures and we need that. So I would say keep an eye on those 4 things, but notice the connection. And if someone's in trouble, try to connect with them. Obviously, refer them on. If you feel that, something like counseling would be good for them, refer them on. Ask them if they're open to that. We are hugely busy at the moment, and I do know that some businesses are having an awful time and some businesses are really busy. So lots of people are reaching out for help, which is good, but it's hard because there is so much need out there.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Helen. Listen, I want to encourage anyone to put any questions you have for Helen in the chat. We'll be moving to your questions very soon. So please, if you have any questions or thoughts that you want to ask of Helen, I'll be, fielding those and putting those across to Helen. I guess, Helen, one last question probably for me is just in the space of working from home. I'm looking at, let's see how many people, 38 people outside of myself sitting at a home, some of you possibly in an office, but most from home. Again, sort of quick, or, what are the things that we can make this tolerant? Using your preferences to possibly be in and be with others, but we can tolerate this. How best can we manage our time at home? You've given us a few tips there about micro breaks. Anything else in that area?
Yeah, and it's funny with working from home, because we've all been doing it for so long. I don't know if we're better at it now, or have we got out of some of our good habits, or is it harder now because it's been going on for such a long time? And the key things for working from home is establish a routine. And at the start of this, it was like, try to get your routine to be similar to your previous routine. Obviously the commute won't be in there, but can you get up at a similar time, have time with your family or whoever you live with in the morning, try to work at the same time. I did hear of some people, instead of commuting in the morning, they'd go out and have a run or a walk in the morning, which is brilliant use of that time where you used to be out of your house and you probably liked it from that point of view. Obviously it's hard being in a car or on a bike or however you got to work. But to try to stick to your routine, try to have micro breaks within your day, particularly that allow you to be outdoors. It's great growing season at the moment. I don't know if any of you are garden people. I'm not really a gardener, but I have started growing in the pandemic because it's something to do and it's interesting. And it keeps you focused on something day to day rather than, I don't know, focusing on things that aren't helpful to focus on. So I'd say routine is huge. Micro breaks are huge. Connection, as I mentioned in the 4 pillars, isn't trying to figure out how can you have connection even though in a way you don't have it. With your work colleagues, can you have like these kind of things where you have a coffee break, or you have a phone call where you're like, okay, I'm sick of the video. Can I just ring one of my friends or a work colleague or someone like that and talk to them? I was about to say face to face there, but of course you can't face to face. One big mental strategy that I've used loads in this pandemic, so I'll share it, is thinking about what I can control within my situation and what I can't, and differentiating between those two. You know, because if you can think about and control the controllables, what's within your capability, that's far better for you mentally than thinking about what you can't control, focusing on that, and then getting down or feeling stuck or feeling angry about it. You know, try not to let what you can't do take center stage, because there is so much we can't control, you know, in terms of the case numbers, decisions about restrictions. But can you mentally focus on what you can control? So what can you do at home today that can make your day a little bit better, whether it's a breathing exercise or a walk, although are we sick of those kind of, or a phone call, or, you know, some music or some art or drawing, or, you know, it's figuring what can I control and trying to mentally focus on that and notice if you're focusing on what you can't and how that is for you.
So, Helen, is there any benefit at all in, you know, sort of planning a holiday, even if it's 2 years from now, but just to give us something to look forward to? You know, obviously, we're hoping to have the opportunity to travel in Ireland this summer. So, you know, some people are booking things, some people are waiting. You know, what are your thoughts about sort of even visualizing being on holiday and some of that, you know, being on a beach or being, you know, somewhere outside of our 5K at the moment? Any thoughts on how that works for us mentally?
I guess it depends on the person. Personally, I find it helpful. I've booked a couple of things for the summer, and like at Christmas, I may end up having to cancel it, but I feel it's important to have things to hope for and look forward to. And I think that's what we miss a lot in our day-to-day lives at the minute, is that there isn't a lot to look forward to. So if you can find things that give you some pleasure, like I was listening to another talk from a lady who painted her garden shed, because then when she looked out into the garden, she just saw something she controlled and she improved, and it gave her a small bit of happiness every day. And you're like, that's gorgeous. You know, I know it's obviously tiny and maybe you don't want to paint your shed, and that's fine, but it's finding those small things that you can do, whether it's booking a camping trip in the summer or book a house in Kerry, or, you know, try to look forward to a time when life might be different and be hopeful that it might be different. I wonder, is hope a tough one at the minute, because it's been a long winter for many? This lockdown has been the hardest for some. I'm hearing they're like, oh no, this one's fine, the first one was the hardest for me. For me, I found this one harder, the first one was okay. You know, so it's different for everyone. But can you try to maybe not focus on something, like maybe not focus on your holiday all day every day, because there's a pretty good chance you might not get to go if you book for May or June, but hopefully we'll get to go July, August, you know, who knows. You know, can you be hopeful around the vaccines, even though there's a lot of media narrative around, oh, it's good today, oh no, it's bad today, oh no, it's going to be here, oh no, it's not going to be here. You know, it's really hard to not to get lost in the noise of all that, but to think for you, what do you hope for, whether that's a holiday in the summer, whether that's a visit to a parent or a grandchild or whoever that is, whether that's I was going to say a gig, but I don't even know if I dare to hope for a gig at the minute, because I sort of feel it's too far away. But maybe even to have layers of hopes in terms of what you would like to look forward to, so that, you know, your top level is going to a beach in Greece. Unlikely this summer, but may happen further down the line. So to figure out what you would like to happen, but have some that are realistic, and some, you know, if you want to go to Vegas, put it up there, but know that it's probably not going to happen for a little while. You know, so I do think hope's important, and having things to look forward to keeps you focused.
Absolutely. I love it. Claire, who has a great last name, the same as mine, Claire Ward, has indicated that for her, it's the animals. And they've kept her going by their sometimes annoying, but enduring love. And she can't even go to the loo without them. So, you know, reality. I love that. And there's Claire. She's got a puppy on her lap. I can see her there. Let me see if I can actually spotlight Claire. Can I do that real quick? Oh, I can't. Where is it? There we go. Spotlight for everyone. There's Claire. And so loving the love. So you're very good. So let's see, we've got Tara says, agreed, Claire, animals in the hens keep me focused and give me time out. Also small projects to do. No point looking at the big projects. So very, very real there. Any closing comments, Helen, before we go to look at the Leo website and do a bit of networking? So Helen, any closing comments?
Yeah, I was going to give one more tip, because I'm a devil for these. I'm like, I've loads more in my bag, so I'll give you another one while we're still here. But another one is practicing gratitude is a really good one, and one that maybe we can lose sight of at the minute when we're feeling, you know, a bit stuck or a bit frustrated. But to pick 3 things a day that you're grateful for, and either do it in the morning or the evening. And like Claire mentioned there, it might be your dog, it might be your cat, it might be your seedling you're growing in the garden, or, you know, it might be something simpler than that. It might be your phone, because that's giving you some sense of connection at the moment. But try to pick 3 things, small things in your daily life, different things each day if you can. It might be that you got out for a walk today and it didn't rain. It might be that you had takeaway today and it was nice not to have to cook. It might be that you phoned a friend or a family member, that you read a good book. It can be as simple as you like. But what it does is it reprograms the neurons in your brain to be more positive or to be less negative, if you even think of in a grateful way once a day for a couple of minutes. You know, and it can just be nice to notice that there are some nice things, like animals, who are unaffected by this. And, you know, we get to spend loads of time with them at the minute, which is great for them. You know, but can you find 3 things that you're grateful for each day? Even one thing a day, you know, make it manageable. You know, and think about that day today and try to write them down if you can. And then you can look back when you're having a bad day and be like, God, I have had some nice things happen, even though life is hard, you know, and to notice them and focus on them sometimes.
You're very good, Helen. And, you know, I'd have to say on my own personal note, I started doing that quite a while ago with my son before COVID. But I find often if I'm having a hard day, he'll ask me what I'm grateful for today. He'll see that I'm challenged. And so he's using my own a bit of psychology on myself. So I'm getting a bit of a role reversal with that. So it's lovely. But we're, you know, it's clear that I've also obviously taught him how to do that. And he's now using it for himself and for others. So I think that's where you get back to that bigger message of, you know, taking care of the people in your circle and, you know, not only in your 5K, but the people you have contact with. So Helen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop over to the local enterprise office website. We're going to look and see what's happening. And then we're going to do some random breakouts, and then we'll do some breakout rooms where people can select where they're going. Helen's been very good to offer to stay in one of those rooms. So you can get more of Helen if you'd like to. I also see there's another note there about using imagination. We said getting a coffee and a snack, going for a picnic, pretending it's a special event. Simple is the magic to lift the spirit. I love it. Thank you for that, Helen Doyle. Just quickly, you'll see there I've shared the, I hope I have, yes I have, the local enterprise office Kildare. You'll see there what they've got coming up, and the training calendar. There's our Helen at the moment, but we've got quite a few things coming up: writing a business plan, registering interest for a lean management program, which I understand is amazing. Of course, a start your own business course. So even if you see something here that doesn't apply to you, please help us by sharing that on your own social media so that others are more informed. Because if you've never started an own business, you don't even know maybe that the local enterprise office exists. And we all recognize how incredibly invaluable it is to us as entrepreneurs. So be sure you're sharing some of this information. Brexit, the ongoing challenges of VAT and duties and things like that. So I don't know, John or Aoife, if there's anything else you'd like to highlight, but lots of training coming up. Green for micro grants. There's amazing supports from the local enterprise office. So if you haven't already had a browse as of recent, please do that. All right.